All right, let's get started. I welcome all of you to this webinar. This is titled Create an App Ecosystem Using APIs. My name is Mayur Shah. I'm the Senior Product Manager and I take care of enterprise accounts here at WaveMaker. I also have with me my colleague Sandeep Nanachkar. He is our Engineering Director for our API Management product. Towards the later part of the webinar, Sandeep will take us through the WaveMaker Gateway product and show us a live demonstration. So today's webinar is going to talk about APIs. You know, most of the organizations today are looking at APIs and looking at how they can use APIs as a way to participate in the modern digital economy. And the question that is asked is, you know, if I have an API, how do I move forward with it? What do I do with it? So today's webinar is going to focus on how can enterprises create application ecosystems using APIs. We are part of WaveMaker. WaveMaker is a company headquartered out of Mountain View, California. It's part of, for those who are not familiar with Proxy technologies, WaveMaker is the parent company, is a subsidiary of Proxy Technologies. Proxy has been around in the enterprise middleware space over the last 2 decades. Back in 1999, Proxy was the first company to certify a J2E application server, and during that time we beat the likes of IBM and BEA. Since then, Proxy has been innovating on multiple fronts. Some of the companies that Proxy has are listed here. We have a mobile marketing platform called SmartQs. Back in 2012, we sold a social collaboration platform to Autodesk. And then WaveMaker is also part of Proxy. Proxy has global offices across the globe. We have about 1,000+ employees, and through our product suite, we get recognized every year by the analysts in various product categories. Briefly talking about the agenda, we'll start with talking about the API adoption. APIs have been around for many years, since the time we, back in the days of Fortran and Pascal programming. We've had APIs in various shapes and forms. So we'll talk about the history of APIs and their adoption within the enterprise. And then we'll talk about specifically on the modern API, enterprise API requirements. You know, how do you take your APIs and create an ecosystem around it? In terms of that, the requirements on the enterprise, we will talk around that. Then we'll specifically talk about the feature set of WaveMaker Gateway. And in that regards, we will also do a live demonstration of WaveMaker Gateway, which is our API management solution. And towards the end of the webinar, we'll do a Q&A section. I would like to encourage all the participants at this time to use your chat window. During the course of the webinar, you can feel free to post your questions, and then we'll take the questions towards the end of the webinar. For some reason, if we are not able to get to all the questions, then we will circle back with you after the webinar. With that, let's get started. So briefly talking about the history of APIs, right? I remember back in the days of, when we used to be in the Pascal and Fortran programming days, we had these embedded function calls. They were a piece of code that could be reused across the application, and were embedded right in the application. Then the era of platforms came when we started APIs. We had Windows and Linux operating system specific APIs that were used by the applications that were written on top of the operating system. Then we had the era of legacy systems, the days of ERPs and such, where they exposed their business logic as function calls, and those were exposed for other applications to consume. And then back in the days of the World Wide Web getting popular, we had web service APIs, right? These were APIs that were accessible over the web and programmers could use them to build applications. What has happened in the recent times, in the modern age, is we've seen an explosion of modern applications. And these modern applications, which I'll talk about in a second, use a set of APIs called as REST APIs, Representation State Transfer APIs. If you look at the explosion of such APIs, at the last count in the programmable web, which keeps a directory of all the APIs, there are about 14,000 REST APIs for programmers to consume. These APIs are all published, and developers can build applications using these APIs. So the natural question is, why is there such an explosion of APIs in the modern times? And the answer to that is, we see that today there is an explosion of mobile devices. Every enterprise has a mobile first strategy, and these mobile devices, the applications that are developed for these mobile devices consume APIs and create those applications. We see SaaS services all over the place. SaaS services and SaaS platforms publish their APIs for other platforms and other partners to consume. And even within your own enterprises, you are seeing a shift of applications from monolithic and layered architecture to more of a microservices based approach, which means there's more APIs that are also getting created. So that's the technical side of the API growth. Let's talk about the business side. Why do businesses today care about APIs? Back in the days of the 90s, we saw that there used to be a unilateral approach for businesses to approach to their consumers, and that was through the website. What has happened in the modern times is that using APIs, enterprises now have the ability to reach out to their line of business applications, to reach out to their partners or their consumers, and also a diverse set of new channels, for example, mobile devices or IoT devices. And all of this is possible using APIs that enterprises can now leverage and communicate to these stakeholders. What this has resulted in is now enterprises have the ability to extend the reach of their products and services and participate in the modern digital economy that we are all reading and seeing every single day. So there you can see the benefits of using APIs. And to give you some figures around that, some of the modern platforms, as you can see here, get their major part of the revenue by leveraging their APIs and having them accessible by their partners and customers. Just to give you some figures, Salesforce gets 50% of their revenue through their use of their APIs partners. And we're not talking about a few dollars here, but we're talking about billions of dollars just as revenue channels through using the APIs. So that's a pretty huge deal. And so clearly what we are seeing is APIs have moved beyond just being encapsulation components. Today, the power of APIs lies in them being the integration glue between applications or applications and devices. It is the ability for enterprises to expose their APIs as services, both for their internal business applications as well as their external business applications. We are also seeing the APIs being used to expose the entire business to partners. For example, Salesforce uses this approach where they expose their entire functionality using APIs to their partners. So clearly we have moved beyond APIs just being encapsulation components. So in that regard, as an enterprise, if you want to take the benefit of taking APIs and creating an app ecosystem around it, we are talking about three different elements. Once you have APIs, there is the ability to take those APIs and then publishing those, then being able to manage those APIs as they are published, and then the ability for those APIs to be consumed by various stakeholders. They could be internal stakeholders like line of business applications, or a variety of external stakeholders, be it your partners, customers, and developers. So API management is the ability to allow enterprises to publish, manage, and consume their APIs in an operationally feasible manner and a business imperative manner. So let's talk more about API management now. In terms of enterprises, there are two sets of APIs. There are internal APIs and there are external APIs, right? As we talked earlier, there are enterprises that take their APIs for internal consumption. In that scenario, what we are looking at is these APIs are mainly being used by line of business applications. Typically, there are no limits in terms of the usage of these APIs. The APIs are mostly consumed by internal apps, and the kind of controls and security mechanism that you put in these APIs are governed by the line of business needs. In some enterprises, Salesforce as an example, they are looking at publishing their APIs to the external world. In that scenario, we are looking at partners and third-party developers as the major consumers of your APIs. There is a need of a subscription model here because there needs to be a business arrangement between the enterprise that is publishing the APIs and the set of consumers that consume these APIs. Also, these APIs are mostly consumed by external apps, and the kind of controls and security mechanisms that are built in are all driven by external business needs. In either of the scenarios, what we see is that there are a common set of requirements that fall into place. For example, there's a need for having an API lifecycle and governance. There's a need for developers, the ability for developers to quickly understand the APIs and use them. There's also need for making sure that APIs are secure and can be monitored in real time as they are being used and consumed. And then there are the obvious requirements around high performance and throughput as these APIs are consumed in high volume and in mission critical environments. So let's talk now about specifically on WaveMaker API management offering. WaveMaker provides a solution called WaveMaker Gateway, and as part of that, it provides the ability for enterprises to publish their APIs and provide full governance in terms of security, versioning, rate limiting, and metering, using an interface called Launchpad. And also, it provides a single window for consumers to subscribe and onboard applications and developers so that APIs can be consumed and app ecosystems can be created using an interface called API Portal. So we'll demonstrate both the Launchpad and the API Portal during the later part of the webinar. WaveMaker's API management is focused on both internal as well as for external API management. Some of the key features of the product are the ability for enterprise to provide API lifecycle in terms of publishing their APIs and plans, then being able to do very fine-grained policy management so that the right security controls can be set up according to the business imperatives. A very high performant runtime, which is a key critical aspect of an API management product, which can allow for high throughput and low latency in case of high volume scenarios, and then being able to provide a subscription option and real-time monitoring and dashboard option. So we'll talk about these now. In terms of the runtime itself, WaveMaker API Gateway uses a load balancer, which is a key component of the overall solution. The Gateway product uses a load balancer which has been trusted by enterprise infrastructure and leading banks and global enterprises across various diverse industries since the last 10+ years. Pramati used to have a load balancer which is now morphed into WaveMaker Enterprise Load Balancer, which is highly scalable and robust, and it ensures high performance and ease of administration. We understand that enterprises need a choice for publishing their APIs, In that regards, the gateway offers multiple publishing standards. You could publish your APIs using various standard API definitions like Swagger, API Blueprint, and RAML. These are very well-known standard specifications, and as a enterprise, you can choose any of these and publish your APIs. One of the things that we have learned and experienced working with large enterprises is that when a platform like this is deployed in large scale, in case of these environments, there needs to be a clear set of roles and responsibilities that are delineated such so that the operation and management of this platform can become much more feasible. In that regards, WaveMaker Gateway allows enterprises to have 3 different roles. There's an API creator role, users who create the APIs and then publish the APIs on the platform, and also the ability for the API creator to set some recommended policies in terms of the usage of their APIs. There's an operation manager role. The goal of the operations manager is to make sure that these APIs are always available and there's an SLA that is fulfilled. So Gateway provides a ability for the operations manager to create specific operational environmental policies in order to manage these APIs. And then finally there's a product owner role where the product owner is responsible for publishing plans that can be consumed by various partners and customers and creating business models around it. In terms of that, the product owner also has the ability to set up the right business level metrics in terms of usage of these APIs. So by clearly differentiating these roles, we have seen that enterprises are able to take this platform and make it much more operationally feasible for their environment. In the product, we have the notion of policy templates, which allows these various roles and users to create policies. These policies can be templates can be created once and reused across the platform. This helps in greatly reducing the setup time of your operations. The policies also provide fine-grained policy control. As you can see here, as an example, the payload policy and the hits policy, there are fine-grained elements that can be configured. Also on the security side, there are fine-grained elements that can be configured and set up for your business requirement. WaveMaker Gateway provides OAuth functionality for enterprises. Gateway acts as an OAuth provider. The reason for this is that we see that a number of enterprises may or may not have security as part of their APIs. So WaveMaker Gateway allows multiple security options for the APIs that enterprises publish, and it front ends those APIs using an OAuth provider. On the back end, the enterprise can use various authentication and access authorization mechanisms based on their existing setup, and the gateway will front end those mechanisms using an OAuth provider. Through the gateway, enterprises can quickly set up multiple environments, and these environments can have various versions of your APIs, different policies set up on various APIs, so that enterprises can quickly onboard their APIs and have consumers start using them. There is comprehensive monitoring and dashboards that are provided in the product for various roles. As you can see here, there is a view for product owners who are interested in the usage of their plans and subscribers, whereas an operations manager would be more concerned about the various environments that are provisioned and making sure that there's real-time monitoring of those environments. So the platform provides comprehensive, detailed dashboards and monitoring for the usage of APIs. In high volume scenarios, we see that Gateway need not go to the APIs all the time for fetching the responses. So there's a flexibility of using a cache across various environments and packages, and making sure that there's increased throughput and low latency when high volume APIs are accessed. As we talked earlier, on the consuming side, WaveMaker provides an API portal, which is a single window for making sure your consumers can log in and search the APIs, subscribe to various API plans, register applications, and onboard developers to start consuming the APIs. Through the single window, there are multiple plans that can be which are subscribed or published by the enterprise can be viewed here, and depending on the business agreements, the consuming entity can subscribe to the appropriate plan based on the control and limits that are required by his applications. The portal provides a very easy and effective way to list your APIs and see the APIs and test them out, so that developers can get a quick understanding and behavior of the APIs. Once the APIs are understood, the developers can then register their applications. The app registration is built on an OAuth mechanism, which provides a seamless registration and key generation for the applications to consume those APIs using the keys. Finally, one of the key differentiations of WaveMaker as a solution is the ability for the consuming entity to rapidly consume the APIs and build applications using our rapid application development platform called WaveMaker Studio. In conjunction with Studio, the consuming entities, the consuming partners can quickly develop apps and consume the APIs that are published on the gateway using our rapid drag and drop application development technology. In terms of pricing, WaveMaker gateway pricing is differentiated from our competition. The API, the enterprise is priced based on the number of endpoints that are published. Pricing is not dependent on the runtime API volume. So this means that for the enterprises, this pricing fits very well for both internal as well as for external API management, and as well as also removes any kind of uncertainty in case of high volume scenarios. So to summarize, the gateway benefits are the API management solution is built on highly trusted and high performant runtime environment. It provides both fine-grained policies and enterprise-grade security for your APIs. It provides a developer portal for both internal line of business applications as well as partners and consumers from external clients to consume the APIs, and enables rapid app ecosystem using the rapid application technology that we have. To sum up on the big picture, WaveMaker is one of the only vendors that provides the complete life cycle from API build to API manage and API consume across the entire spectrum. So right from API developer to a product owner and an application developer, it provides the ability for enterprises to rapidly develop app ecosystems using this approach. With that, I'd like to now hand over the demo to Sandeep, and Sandeep will take us through the demonstration.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Hey, Sandeep, you have the ball.
Yeah. Okay, you can see my screen? Mayur?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so good morning, folks. I'll be taking you through quickly through some demos. We won't be going into detailed demos, but a quick peek into the WaveMaker launchpad, gateway launchpad, and the API portal. Okay. Okay, so I'll be briefly covering some of the WaveMaker API gateway artifacts and roles, so that once we go through the demo, they become easier to understand. Then I would be uploading a Swagger API document and then creating an API package in the WaveMaker API gateway launchpad. And we could go on to create a package, environment, and a plan. I would explain what these are. We will go and explore some of these things. I'll give you an overview of WaveMaker Gateway API portal. It's a brief overview of its navigation, its functionalities. And then we would go ahead and do a runtime call through the gateway and see how the monitoring works. If time permits, we will briefly also look at some of the security provider configurations and cache management of how we could do that to the WaveMaker API Gateway Launchpad. So what we see here on the screen right now is an API package. An API package is a logical grouping of the various API documents. So when I say API document, it is either a Swagger document with all the endpoints and models defined, or it's an API blueprint document, or RML. It could also be a WSDL. So a package represents a logical grouping of the APIs and their versions. A package is also associated with recommended policy elements. Typically a package is created by API creator because he's the one who knows about the APIs, and he could recommend certain policies like whether authentication needs to be done, whether this API analytics policy needs to be enabled, and things like that. Next artifact which we're using is an API environment, which represents a group of related packages. And the environment is primarily a logical representation of the infrastructure or the physical backend, which it could also be multiple nodes which an environment points to. And these are the nodes where the backend application is actually running and exposing its APIs. So when you configure an environment, you would also configure what are the nodes which are running based on what packages this environment should refer to. Also with the API environment, you would go ahead and add policies which actually define what the infrastructure is capable of providing. For example, an environment which supports let's say around 2000 calls a minute, you would go ahead and define the limits of this environment. So later on, when you use these environments into plans, these values are then inherited by the plans, which are then which the API consumers would then subscribe based on their requirement. So this is an example of API environment, a dev environment, a live partner environment, along with their policy attached. API plan is a grouping of the environments a particular plan exposes, and the plan is also seen by the API consumer, and the elements of the plan are also referred to as quota. So when an API consumer looks at a plan, he chooses the plan based on his requirement and then subscribe to the plan. So I've been talking about policy and policy elements. So primarily what we have in the WaveMaker API gateway is that we can define policy templates, and we can reuse these policy templates as a quick way to have the assembled policy elements attached to either the environment or the plan or the package. Yeah, so this slide will primarily clear how the publishing of API in the WaveMaker API gateway happens. So primarily, an API creator comes into the WaveMaker API launchpad and creates a package. So let's say in this case the HR API package. And after creating the package, he uploads the necessary API docs, the Swagger docs, into this package. In this case, employees, Mediclaim, and redressal APIs. And then he adds some recommended policy elements to this HR APIs package. So in this case, he adds authentication policy element, and yes, there's a configuration for that, which we will look through when we go through the demo. And he also adds analytics policy element. Analytic policy element primarily records the headers and the values so that they can be later used for, they are exposed through the analytics API. So this is the recommendation by the HR, by the API creator. The next role, the operations manager, who basically represents IT ops, is aware of the environment where the applications are running or where the applications will be deployed. So he creates a logical equivalent of environment, in this case Corridor Apps Production Environment. And he also adds his elements. So based on the environment capacity and what kind of a VM it is or what kind of a machine it is, and what other services the particular environment is offering, he can get a fairly good idea about what this environment is capable of and configure the policy elements, in this case the rate limiting policy element and the rate limiting for the payload as 1000 hits per minute and 1 MB cumulative response per minute. So that way he gets to configure what this environment can support. And then he associates the packages, in this case the HR API package, and he also adds another package, Finance API package, into this environment. So now at this stage we have a environment which actually points to the backend nodes which are running the HR APIs and the Finance APIs. The product owner, who is primarily the business front end of business front end to the API consumers, knows how these plans will be consumed and what kind of plans the API consumers are looking for. And based on that, he creates a plan. So in this case, let's say he's creating a silver corridor plan, and he tells that, okay, fine, I am expecting a maximum of 10 subscribers to this plan, and a concurrency level, that means 40% of the subscribers may access this API concurrently. There is no limit on the max subscribers. It is just that when we inherit the various elements, the limiting elements from the environment, the subscriber and the concurrency play a part in determining what would be the limits for a subscriber to this plan. So let's say that he goes and adds the Corridor Apps Production Environment and a stage environment into this plan, associates to this plan. And at the same time, when he adds these environments, the rate limit elements which were defined in the corresponding environments are inherited into the policy of the plan. So in this case, since we had a subscriber of 10 and a concurrency of 40, a simple calculation will say that this particular plan can subscribe to a maximum rate limit of 250 hits per minute. If he chooses, the product owner can go ahead and reduce it further. He also sees that the recommended policy elements, the API creator has provided authentication element and he has configured it. So he inherits the authentication policy element, decides not to include the analytics policy element, and then he goes ahead and adds a metering policy element and app limit policy element based on what he feels his plan would be optimized for. Now the plan is ready, and this needs, so then it gets exposed to the API consumer, okay, on the API portal. So until now, what all these, what the API creator, the product owner, and the operations manager were involved with the WaveMaker API Gateway Launchpad. Okay, so whatever plans are created, they get exposed. Once they are activated, they get exposed onto the API portal, where an API consumer can search for a plan. He can look at it, check out the quota elements which are available for that particular plan, and subscribe to it. And as a part of the subscription, he can go ahead and add applications, register the applications to that, and also register developers who would be using that application for development. Let me now quickly jump into a demo. So what we have here now is the dashboard of the WaveMaker API Gateway Launchpad, and I have logged in as a product owner. So we'll cover the dashboard after some time. Let me go quickly and show how a package can be created. So right now I've logged in as a super user, so I'm changing my role to an API creator. Ideally, a single role is allocated to the enterprise resources who would be logging into the Gateway Launchpad. So let's go ahead and create a package. Yeah, so in this I'm uploading a Swagger document. Sorry, I think it's a bad document. Yeah, so you have these APIs which are uploaded, and then we go ahead and create a package. So one of the steps in the creation of a package is you could go ahead and select a policy template, which is a recommended policy template in terms of what policy elements you need to associate this new package in. So templates allow you to quickly choose through your policy elements. You could go ahead and edit them. So let's not select a template. Let's go next step, and then you could obviously go ahead and add authentication element as a recommended. I recommend authentication, and in this case we are using a default authentication OAuth 2 with a default provider, and we are ensuring that all the flows are supported in the OAuth 2. So you have the authentication element as a recommended API policies. Yeah, so you can go ahead and create a package. Similarly, you could go ahead and create an environment and a plan. I'm just going to quickly go through an already created environment. Yeah. Yeah, so you could go ahead here and click on create API environment to create an environment. So let me go ahead and see an existing environment. So in this case, we see that we have this pet store QA environment, and the environment type is a QA. It just tells the type. You can add your own custom types, and you can also give a you can also give a prefix. This is the URL which would be exposed to the API consumers for making the API call. And over here you go ahead and add the actual node where your APIs are running, or the API services are running. You can add multiple nodes if it is a clustered application. These are some of the options which you have in terms you want to preserve the headers, you want to add some new headers and things like that. We can skip that for now. Okay, and you can go ahead here and in the next step where you configure your environment policy. For instance, in this policy we have the rate limits which are configured as the frequency is configured 500 per minute, the hits frequency. The request payload is 5 MB and the payload response limit is 5 MB. To add a new policy element, you could go here and you can add the elements. Okay, so that goes ahead and creates the environment. Similarly, let's go ahead and explore an already created plan. So I will change my role as a product owner. So as a product owner, let me look at the plan which I'll be using in my demo. So I've gone ahead and created this plan, and then I have created the plan elements for this particular. So analytics is enabled. We have a hits metering that is enabled for this plan. Authentication is enabled for that. So you can go ahead and create a plan from here using the create plan. Okay, and then you could associate the environments for the plan. So here's where you give their subscriptions and the concurrency factor, which tells you whether what do you expect your API consumers to access concurrently in terms of 80% or 4%. So in this case, let's keep it 1, which means all the 10 are expected to access these APIs concurrently. Yeah, so then you can go ahead and associate the environments to these plans. So let's say that we are associating an environment. And then you could select some of the pre-created templates, for example, a gold template or a silver template. These templates can again be created by going over here and editing those templates, and you can create as many templates as you want, which will help in enforcing to a certain degree the policy elements across the roles. And you can edit the plan elements and confirm it. Since we already created, I'm going to skip this step. So that's how a plan looks like. So let's go ahead and have a look at the monitoring part of the plan. So meanwhile, okay, so let me quickly jump into the API portal meanwhile. So this is the API portal. I have logged in as a app manager. We have 2 roles which are supported in the API portal. One is an application manager, and the other one is application developer. The application manager gets a choice to add the developers to his applications. So for example, in this case, let's say that I search for a plan using the search, or I can go ahead and look at all the plans. These are the plans to which I've subscribed. So let's say that I'm taking, let's look at the subscribe plan. Yeah, so what you see on the API portal is, so this is the plan which says that, okay, fine, it's an organization plan, and this is the environment where the APIs are exposed. The plan quotas are exposed 99 per minute in terms of the hits which are allowed, and the number of apps you can register for this plan is 5, and the number of users who can concurrently access is 100. And this plan has got one custom environment, and that is exposing a sales DB package. Yeah, you could explore the APIs over here, and you could also test those APIs if it's a sandbox environment. And if you look at, these are the applications which are registered to this subscription. So when you add an application, each application gets a client ID and a secret key, which is used to generate the OAuth token, which is then used to access the APIs. So the OAuth token is a time-bound token. You can have the gateway configured to issue either a 30-minute token or a 1-hour token as when you do the installation, and the token also takes a scope. So the OAuth scopes are there, which restricts what APIs you could call with that token. Okay. Yeah, you could also search for APIs. We have some dev resources. You can have a look at the developers which are available, the applications, and we have a very powerful search which you could use to yeah, so you can, so there's a search utility, and it supports multiple functions. So you can search by path or the base path or the models which are used in your APIs, and you also have a form-based search to help you in your search. Okay, so now let's go back to our plan. So what I'm going to show now is how do you go about accessing the APIs. So in this case, we said that the sales app is registered, and we have this. We have created a sample application which basically uses these two keys. This is the sample app which is registered, and this is the actual application which is registered. So you have the client ID and the client secret. So using client credentials OAuth2 flow, and we generate the token. And then you can go ahead and make a, let's say that I make a call 5 times. So the API call has gone via the gateway, and it has got the, so let's have a look at, yeah, so there you see that the call has gone, and it has the 5 hits registered over there, so it's live monitoring. Let's go ahead and make one more call. Yeah, so you see that, so that's the, so that way you could go ahead and have live monitoring, you can filter it. So we have a robust standard analytics which comes along with your dashboard and monitoring, and we'll be adding more. There is also an analytics API which you can use to extend into your own UIs and cut and dice the data. Yeah, so Mayur, that's it from my side.
Hey, pass me the ball.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the. Yeah, Mayur, you have it.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Sandeep. So let's I have a couple more slides, and then we'll open up for question and answers. So thanks for the nice demo. So in terms of WaveMaker, the WaveMaker Gateway product is available for enterprises like yours to do a trial. You can go to wavemaker.com/request evaluation, and we give out a trial image which you can try out for your own use cases, and we will help you, for those trial environments. Also, WaveMaker Studio, which is used for rapid app consumption, app API consumption, and app development, is also available for free trial on wavemakeronline.com, as well as you can request on-prem setup of WaveMaker Studio as well, using the same request evaluation link shown here. So with both of these, I would encourage enterprises to, if you have trials that you want to, use for your trying out your API management offering, then feel free to request those trials, and we'll be more than happy to help you on those trials. With that, let me now open up for Q&A, and I will take the questions that were asked as part of the session. So our first question is, can WaveMaker be set up, gateway can be set up on on-premise within my data center? So the answer to that is WaveMaker gateway is available as a VM. The VM can be set up on a, on a VMware virtualized infrastructure or on a virtual box kind of an infrastructure inside your data center on your hardware, physical hardware, and you can basically use that as an on-premise setup. So that is possible, and as I mentioned earlier, we provide a VM for that as well. The next question is, you mentioned about OAuth 2. WaveMaker is an OAuth provider. Does WaveMaker support all the flows of OAuth 2 specification? To answer to that is yes, WaveMaker gateway is OAuth 2.0 compliant. In fact, WaveMaker gateway acts as an OAuth provider, which means that if you have APIs inside your enterprise and if they are unsecured, WaveMaker can secure those APIs using OAuth mechanism. And WaveMaker also supports all the 4 OAuth flows because depending on the nature of your client applications, if they are mobile applications or desktop or custom applications, various flows can be integrated and used. So WaveMaker does support all of those flows for your application authorization. The next question is that can WaveMaker integrate with Studio, and in what regards does it integrate with WaveMaker Studio? So as in the earlier part of the webinar, I mentioned that WaveMaker as a solution helps enterprises to rapidly create APIs and consume them and then manage those APIs using gateway. So from app creation and app consumption standpoint, WaveMaker provides WaveMaker Studio. Using WaveMaker Studio, enterprises can publish their APIs. These APIs can be APIs created out of their legacy systems or from their custom applications, and those APIs can be exposed automatically by WaveMaker Studio as REST APIs and can be published into gateway. Also, once these APIs are published into the gateway, and if there's a need to rapidly create applications by consuming these APIs, WaveMaker Studio can consume those APIs rapidly as well. Through WaveMaker Studio, developers can automatically publish these APIs in a Swagger document, and the Swagger document can be automatically be imported on WaveMaker gateway, and the APIs can be published. So there's a two-way integration between WaveMaker gateway and WaveMaker Studio. The ultimate goal being rapidly creating application ecosystems using the APIs that you have. So that was the last question. I would encourage you to go back and look at our website for any other literature. Also, feel free to try out our products, and we'll be happy to help you out on those. With that, thank you so much for your time and your participation in this webinar. We look forward to you to joining us in the next webinar as well. Thanks a lot, and with that, goodbye.